All right, we got 3 check marks. Let's make it a nice even 6 here. Got to add those other groups these days here. And got the spinning wheels going. One's in there. Oh, one had an error. Let's try that one more time. We'll see if that goes through. If not, early holiday for that group. There we go. You are live. Ceremonious, pre-ceremonious coffee sip here to get us kicked off. All right. Welcome in. It is Thursday morning. God, I don't even know. And it's time for an episode of Broncos for Breakfast. I'm Nick Kendell. Question mark all around. Happy holidays,
I'm
man.
Ron Burgundy.
I'm a shell of a man.
Who put the question mark after his name? Anyway, we're already getting started. We're off the rails early this morning, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. It's thanks for holding down the fort for me while I was gone. I was out there in probably the most ridiculous Christmas place I've ever seen in my life, Leavenworth, Washington. It's an old lumber town that they voted, 20 years ago. Like, okay, we need a bit. What are we going to do here to bring people in to make money? Because the timber is not as prevalent on the east side of the Cascades. We know we'll make a Bavarian Christmas village. And boy, they went all out for Bavarian Christmas village. It's really, really cool. Reindeer farm out there, Nutcracker Museum. I mean, the whole shebang. They go bonkers for Christmas, and had a great time out there with the mother-in-law, the pets, and the wife. But Scott, I missed you. Good to be back here talking with some normalcy now.
Yeah, I took Tuesday morning off without you. I was like, I'm just not going to do it without you. And then Chad and I were on Tuesday night and had a good time. And then here we are. There's been some news across. There's been some bad news, unfortunately.
Yeah.
As Bama X comes in, he says, "Good morning, Broncos country. Rest in peace, Ronnie Hillman." Yeah. As Colin says, 31 years old. Nick, what do you remember of Ronnie with the Denver Broncos, and a favorite memory of sorts that 31 years old. He's a kid. He was a kid. That's just a shame.
Yeah, it really is just terrible. I remember when the Broncos drafted him, it was in the 3rd round of the 2nd draft class of John Elway out of San Diego State. Guy from not the biggest, but a home run threat. Never really was an amazing running back, but got the job done for sure for Denver out there for the years that he was there. In the same draft class, I believe in the same round as he was the pick after Brock Osweiler in that 2012 draft class. He had a lot of fun stories coming up out of San Diego State too. He played on that youth football team coached by Snoop Dogg out there in Southern California, and by all accounts, a great guy as well. Soft-spoken, hard worker, and on some very fun and interesting Broncos teams with Peyton Manning through those years. So really a big bummer. I saw a picture out this morning of Ronnie Hillman and Demaryius Thomas, celebrating a touchdown in that Sunday night Packers game. And it's like, holy crap, man, like life is so fragile and temporary. So really a big bummer. I saw the news come a couple days ago, and Ronnie Hillman's in hospice with, I believe it was liver cancer, which never, you hear those two put together and it's like, oh, bleep.
But that's then the let's just try and make him comfortable phase of, there isn't recovery. It's not treatment. It's let's just be comfortable. And hopefully he went out, painless. What do you say? We're just, those close to his friends and family, and, those who grew up and enjoyed watching him, rest in peace.
Yeah. Well, shout out to Ronnie Hillman. Happy. I'm hoping that he was able to have his family around him and everything as well. And obviously, he lived life pretty large, making it in the NFL for a number of years there. And again, some of these guys, you hear about them like, oh, that guy, good player, a real a-hole. Heard Ronnie Hillman was a pretty dang good guy. So really sucks to see that happen. And it stinks. And we got Grant coming in hospice phase. My wife's friends are all hospice nurses. Bless them. Bless Ronnie. Morning Broncos for breakfast. R.I.P. Ronnie Hillman. Rest in paradise, Hillman. The Heart's coming in here from Sunny Days. Yeah, it's a pretty big bummer here. And when I was really starting to get into the Broncos draft side of things, 2011, 2012, that Von Miller draft, I remember specifically being like, okay, the draft can be pretty fun because the Broncos have been typically picking later half of the first round in the Mike Shanahan era. So I brought in Ronnie, and Achy Dragon coming in here saying, RIP Ronnie, way too young. Keith coming in saying no Super Bowl 50 without Hillman in the playoffs. RIP Ronnie Hillman. Yeah, he did have a couple good games there down the stretch. Third down running back. He never became, full-time, big-time starter, but most don't. And if you can be in a committee, especially in a committee with Peyton Manning as your quarterback, it's going to be fine. And we got Lawrence Rivera saying, wow, this guy's literally 6 years older and in perfect health compared to me. That's crazy. Yep. I mean, life is fragile and we are here temporarily. We're just borrowing these atoms and the carbon for a little bit and then back to the earth we go. So thinking about him and his family today, and not really much else to say on that. It's just, it sucks.
So, wanted to say, pay our respects to Ronnie Hillman. We also want to talk a little football as we're coming in. We've got some things to talk about now. One of the positives, as Dom comes in, he says, one of the positive news is Pat Surtain is a Pro Bowler, his second year in the league. That was an easy call, so to speak. This one, he got a lot of hype. He got the hype you need to become a Pro Bowler and to stay a Pro Bowler. Quentin Nelson was a Pro Bowler for the 5th time in a row. Is Quentin Nelson, guard, Indianapolis Colts, should he be a Pro Bowler? No, you need that name recognition and all that type of stuff. And he was getting that coming in. And he's really good. Those are a good combination to make you a Pro Bowler for a long time. Now, the next one to check off his mark is at the end of the year, All-Pro. I think he's got a pretty good chance, Nick, to go possibly first team All-Pro this year, as well as Pro Bowler.
Yeah. And absolutely, we have Grant coming in here also again saying Pro Bowl is a popularity contest. It is when they are showing it before it's announced, because what they are showing early on is the fan voting, and the fan voting is 1/3 of the vote. And just to kind of show how much that weighs or doesn't weigh, just a little anecdote. Tua Tagovailoa was the number 1 vote getter of all players in the fan vote, and he wasn't even on the initial roster for the Pro Bowl voting because the players and the coaches did not vote for him over Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow. There might even been another AFC quarterback that got in there before Tua Tagovailoa. So yes, it is a popularity.
Still some name recognition and popularity within the league, though, too. So
There
a
is.
popularity contest has something to do with it, but one of the ways you get popular is by playing really well. So, it's a popularity contest, but typically they're not putting stiffs in the Pro Bowl. You got to be a pretty good football player to make the Pro Bowl, or at least at one point have been a pretty good football player, even if you may have hang around in maybe a year or two longer after you start your decline. But you got to be a pretty good player to get into the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, and congratulations to Patrick Surtain. His first Pro Bowl, I'm sure one of many to come, and definitely deserved. He's out there with Sauce Gardner, probably the guy he's battling for All-Pro, some of those names there. So we'll be interesting to follow that down the stretch. And we got 3 games left against some pretty interesting quarterbacks, some really talented quarterbacks that Surtain, if he can pick off a couple there, get another pick 6 like he had against Herbert last year at home in Denver, maybe make a stronger case there. But happy for Surtain. And want to talk a little bit more Pro Bowl here, but let's keep getting into it here. Kevin Gray coming in saying, morning, Nick and Scott. What up, Broncos country? Merry Christmas to all. I hope we don't keep Hackett waiting to hear from you, and the country, Denver Broncos for life. Hackett's definitely a chance to come back. We'll see. I keep hearing that it's more and more likely, but they have to finish out strong. So we'll see. Things can change, and it's new ownership, right? That's the whole bit. I think people are guessing because people don't really have the inside sources with the Walton Penner group. We don't know about the status or security of George Payton. It sounds like he's definitely back, but again, how much power is he going to have compared to what he had before? He's going to be having a little bit of a training wheels on, or, the bumpers on the side with some of the decisions. We'll see. That'll be interesting to follow. Lawrence Rivera coming in. I believe this is stars because Scott flashed it up here and it says much love, guys. But we'll see. This is definitely a crazy morning in Colorado. That snow hit hard and it was negative 13 degrees with no power since 5:30. Okay, well, that's maybe that's why our numbers are a little low today. No, the power's out there. I hope everybody's doing safe. And David also coming in saying, I'm praying that everyone during the severe weather, praying for everyone with all these severe weather challenges. Yeah, we're going to get an inch of ice here in Seattle. It's colder than heck in the Midwest. Scott's freezing his took us off out there in Georgia. It's crazy out there.
Yeah, it's supposed to drop into the teens in Georgia with 40-mile-an-hour winds. I'm like, what are we on the Great Plains? It's going to be pretty wicked here. So polar vortex, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be cold. So everybody stay safe out there for sure.
Man, I lived in a really crappy house my senior year of college, and I lived pretty close to campus, so I'd go over there, get away from my parents for a bit or whatever, have my own little space, hang out with some friends, and really crappy house. And we was out there for a polar vortex. One of the pipes frozen, busted, and that was a bleeping crappy time. Let me tell you. But praying for everybody. Keep your if it's really cold there, they say to keep your faucet dripping, right, and maybe keep your the cabinet drawers open so that way your pipes don't burst in the house. So give a little bit of ventilation in there and some heat. Icky Dragon coming in saying, I found a frozen squirrel under my tree this morning. Holy, I don't think, is this an Ice Age joke or is this for real? What's going on?
Well, the reason why I brought this one up, well, because we like Icky anyway, but you might have a cat. I had a huntress of a cat. We called her I called her a one cat ecosystem wrecker. And she brought in, we had a cat door, let them go in and out. She brought a squirrel all the way in through the cat door, dragged it in through the kitchen, through the hallway, and put it under our tree. Here under our Christmas tree. Here's a present for you. And by God, she'd let you know when she was home from the hunt too. She'd start howling, basically. So yeah, Aki, I've been there. I've had this squirrel under my tree. This was one that my cat would catch for me. So she was a killer for sure. And then she'd climb up in your lap. This sweet little thing is the one you call the assassin. Yes, that's the one. As long as you're not vermin, you're pretty safe.
Very cute. Yeah, that's announcing everybody. Come and get it. Food's here. I've provided. KB82, good morning, Nick. Sorry about Caden Proctor. Oh, Nick Saban, you son of a gun. Can't blame him. You can be a CU fan now since they have Travis Hunter and Cormani McLean. No, I'm Iowa ride or die. But I have my CU hat back there behind me. So yeah, I support you guys. But it'll be fun. I'm curious to see how the college football's changed a lot. And we saw last year how Texas A&M, the #1 recruiting class ever, right, just totally crashed and burns. And what was it? 24 of their players entered the portal this season. So this portal buying team, NIL stuff, it's going to be really interesting to see how it varies team to team, because you got to have a strong culture in there, because it's a lot of young men with some money out there and things can get off the rails. And we saw that this year at Texas A&M. You got to have good culture and good coaching staff and good dudes in there as well, character. So not saying any of these guys aren't, but it totally adds a new dynamic for some of these teams. And we'll see. And also enjoy Coach Prime while you have it. I mean, Colorado going to have a really great recruiting class because of this. I would be doubtful if this is his final stop on his college career. And what does that mean when he leaves, especially in the portal era? But, enjoy the high while you have it is all I can say. Enjoy your moment in the sun, and maybe you can build off of that going forward.
Yeah, and what I always said is, when teams would kind of bag on you for something like that, oh, he's not a very good coach and he's going to leave you anyway. Well, which is it?
Yeah.
Because if he's leaving, he's either not a very good coach, then why would he be leaving for an upgrade? If he's leaving for an upgrade, we just had a couple of great seasons. Thank you very much. I win.
Yep.
Miguel Sansi Stevan working in this morning, and he's winning. He says, morning, fellas. I think All Pro holds more weight. REP, rest in peace, number 23. Yeah, All Pro does, of course. I mean, it's a more select group. When you're talking about first team All Pros, you're talking about, all 22s, maybe with some reserves in here instead of over 100 players and the reserves and alternates and the non-Super Bowl teams and all that kind of stuff. But when you're talking about 1,500 players, 1,600 players, and by the time you get through practice squads and all that, there's probably 2,000 players that play in the NFL at any given time. Being a top 100 is still pretty solid. It's still something to put on that resume.
Yeah. That is absolutely something to put on your resume. All Pros more valuable, but I mean, and I used to be, Pro Bowl who gives a hoot. The game doesn't matter. It's somewhat a popularity contest. They don't really have good methodology for selecting the players, but then you see the players when they get announced as Pro Bowl and they break down, crying. It means so much to them. I can't say it doesn't matter if it matters to the guys who are actually putting their bodies and careers on the line and busting their butts to get some recognition there. So if it matters to them, it matters to me. Yeah, we can. Go ahead.
Go ahead. So, and I don't care about the game.
Yeah.
The Pro Bowl game itself, who cares? But the recognition is still important. You get that check mark on your reference page. You get a bonus on your contracts. It's still a big deal to be a Pro Bowler. I mean, just look at it this way. How many Pro Bowlers did the Denver Broncos have last year?
0.
None.
None.
0.
Yeah.
Weren't a very good team. They had one this year. Again, it is a popularity contest, but you become more popular by playing well and winning.
Yeah.
Goes hand in hand, y'all.
Yep, 100%. Good to see you, Miguel. We appreciate you. Happy holidays to you. Jacob Foster, the silent one, Silent Night, coming in here. That's your Christmas name, Jacob. We appreciate you. Happy holidays to you and yours. Always good to see you come in. If you have anything to say, let us know, but we appreciate the bit going here at this point. Desert Creature, Arizona says hello. Nice today. Well, good for you, Desert Creature. We need snow in the mountains because that's when it sleeps. Otherwise, we get terrible forest fires. So I'll make this deal every time. Keith Brugman coming in, -34 here in Montana. Feels like -49. God bless it. That is unbelievable.
That's the coldest I've ever been. I was talking about it yesterday. We'll get to some football here eventually. But I was up in Ohio and I was riding dirt bikes, trail bikes, until it hit -60 wind chill, and they couldn't get them started anymore. My throttle froze open. I was a kid. I didn't know. I was like, I probably could have cut the gas or something. It was an old bike. I'm out in the field, just throttle stuck open, brakes aren't working. Like, all right, I know how to get off of this thing. Whee! When you're in snowmobile suits, a full face helmet, you're like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man on a motorcycle. I was basically indestructible falling in the field. So it was a good time. And Jacob Foster, again, thank you for all of the support, my friend.
Yeah.
Huge help to the show. Diego coming in green also says, good morning, guys, and Merry Christmas. Do you think the Broncos see some upside on Jarrett Guarantano, or why else would we sign him to a 2-year deal? Nick, I'm gonna look up his 2-year deal so I can confirm what I think about his 2-year deal. So while you get the first crack at this question.
They probably like him enough that they want him in camp next year. I think that's probably the biggest thing here, but there's probably not hardly any guarantees on this contract to the point where it would be, thinking long term with him. I think it's more so having somebody in camp that they like. And I think Guarantano worked with, oh God, who's the name? Palmer, not Carson Palmer, but his brother, who's the really good quarterback coach. Worked with like Josh Allen and Joe Burrow.
These guys, I've worked with them. They were Elite 11 guys forever.
Yeah.
All I can think of now is like Josh and I'll figure it out. It'll come to me in a little bit. I work with those guys. They ran the Elite 11 camps out there for quarterbacks.
Yeah, Palmer. It's Carson Palmer's brother. But anyway, he spoke really highly of Guarantano as the dude. He said he didn't have the best time at Tennessee, a lot of pressure there, and didn't live up to I think it was maybe a 5-star, really high 4-star recruit.
Yeah, he was a solid 4. He didn't come in with huge expectations, like one of the top 2 or 3 guys. But he was a good player. He was really good mobility too.
Yeah.
Good dual threat guy. He wasn't the purest passer. Good enough arm, but not a great arm. But good athlete, good frame, all those things. Good stock. His dad played in the NFL as well, so the moment's not too big for him. But Spot Rack only has his. It doesn't have an update on it. Just as a 1-year 705, but it's a 1-year deal with an option. I will promise you, there's not a dead cap number associated with that will make it prohibitive to him to not have him anymore. Now, physically, is in the upgrade over what you have in Brett Rippon? Yes, he is. He's got a better arm. He's faster. He's bigger. He's all those things. So is he a better option as a backup starter? Sure. Is he a journeyman who hasn't done a whole lot at this point in the NFL? Yeah. So why bring him in? Sign him? It was a little bit of a strange one to me. Again, but the 2-year contract, to sign him to the 53, it was a little strange to me because he's probably going to be a free agent at the end of would have been a free agent at the end of this year anyway. This is just getting ahead of the curve. Who's not a free agent? We're signed, sealed, committed to Deanna Henry. Coming in, she says, "Merry Christmas, Seth." Who's this Seth person? That's Nick over here. And Deacon Scott. So sad to hear about Hillman. Broken heart emoji. It's still in there. It's 50 below with wind chill here where I'm at. Brutal cold all week. Hackett having hope to have a second year is ludicrous to me. Deanna's been banging that drum. Boom, 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 boom. No more Hackett. And Nick, I've said this before too. If you are, and I'm in agreement with Deanna here. if you're making a decision based on the final 2 or 3 games of the season, that's not how you make a decision on a $50 million contract on $5 billion franchise is on the whim of a couple of football games. It's got to be bigger than that. I feel like the decision, unless you had decided that you were bringing him back and something catastrophic happens, which we're not going to predict that. Oh, there's some scandal. We can't predict that. So throw that out. Your decision has already been made. It has been made. Unless we are trying to get this guy and that falls through. Because I promise you they're talking with other coaches right now, or at least their agents. You know, and it turns out we can't get anybody. Then Hackett comes back and we will never hear that. We will never hear that from them. Oh, yeah, we felt really good about him. A lot of things going against him. We couldn't get any of the guys we wanted, so we stuck it out for another year.
Yep.
So that's the only way I see this happening. And Bam X has come in exactly. He says, or if a better coach becomes available. Yeah. I mean, you need to have plans A through Z ready when you pull the trigger on a fire.
And some of it to me, and this is, just reading some tea leaves here, but can they sell it to the fans? You finish the year strong. There's enough people that, let's say you beat Chargers and knock them out of the playoffs. You beat the Rams this week, and you can spin it. Oh, well, first year, Russell Wilson was dealing with injuries all season. You had the most money on injured reserve all season. You really saw them kind of start to turn it around by the end. They were still fighting for their coach. They improved as the season went on, and it's really unfair to fire a coach after 1 year. So I can already see it written. I'm not pro bringing Hackett back by any means, playing devil's advocate, because there's a reality out there where that happens. So just kind of brace yourself for that one. And also just hearing some rumblings behind the scenes, what does Hackett do here? Well, he might have been one of the less empowered coaches that we've had for a bit. Whose offense is running being right now? Is it the Russell Wilson offense? Is it Hackett's offense? Who gets to call the starting offensive lineman? Just things like that, where it's kind of interesting. And that comes also hand in hand with maybe as you covered your mouth there, some of those coaches that don't want to come in maybe are concerned about working with what Russell Wilson is right now and the power that he's been given. Can you put that genie back in the bottle? It's a tough situation with Denver. So we'll see what happens. The other thing that's rough with that is that, let's say, and we talked about it earlier, you fire Hackett this year and you bring in a coach. Let's say you suck eggs again next season. Are you firing that coach again, firing George Payton and moving on from Russell Wilson to give yourself 4 coaches in 4 years? I mean, it's something that I think the front office or the ownership is at least thinking about right now. I think they would like to have Hackett back if they could help it. It seems like a great guy as well, like a nice person. Doesn't mean you're winning football games, but it's definitely it's more of a possibility than we thought, even entering the bye week a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and what do you do? I think the expectations will be different next year.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of it. You're going to get more of a runway. This was Super Bowl or bust. This was we're aiming for the playoffs and we're in it to win it, and all of those type of things. And by God, you went bust. If you're Super Bowl or bust, playoffs or bust, you busted. Okay, well, some heads are going to roll. Okay, so whoever's coming in on the next time, one, they're going to get big, fat, guaranteed contract.
Yeah.
So Nathaniel Hackett's going to get paid for whatever he's getting anyway. He doesn't have to stick it out for 5 years. He's going to get all that money. So you're going to get plenty of money, even if it's 1 year. And Nathaniel Hackett will have a job next year somewhere. He won't have any trouble saying, unless part of his payout, it would be your new job covers it, then he might sit out a year or whatnot. But my point is, you can get a guy to come in. You can, and he will have lower expectations. He will have more runway, and hopefully won't fall flat on his face the way this team has. I mean, it's hard to predict that it was going to be this bad.
Yeah, I agree with you with the runway, but the thing that I feel is that if you bring in a new general manager, a lot of times they want to bring in their own guy, and that would mean that
I think that Payton, if he's back, he is tied to the fate of this next coach, period.
Yeah.
Period. If it's Hackett for 1 year, he's tied to that.
Yep. I agree.
Okay, so he'd be out. And if he hires the next guy, 2-3 years. Okay, like I said, I don't think, one, you wouldn't expect this level of incompetency. 2, the expectations are lower. So you're looking at least a 2-3 year runway. If it's still bad, then they're all gone. Then, to your point, then they can still make the clean sweep and clean house. That's how I think. If Payton is back, his fate is tied to whoever is a coach next year. Flat out.
Yeah. I think you give him a little bit more runway than I would, considering the big moves he's made this year. I think he's on thin ice approaching next season. I don't think hiring a new coach buys him another 2 or 3 seasons. Otherwise, I mean, then he has to fire Hackett, right? It's either a 1 year proposition with Hackett or you fire a guy and whoever it is. At least you give yourself 3 more seasons to figure it out. So we have a plenty of offseason talk about this, but will be
If
interesting.
you
I want to
bring
say,
Hackett back and he falls on his face next year, it's a clean sweep.
yep,
The whole
oh,
place.
100%. Yep, dead cap and all. Building for
It
the
might be
future.
this year anyway.
It's possible. It's possible. Paul coming in and saying, I'm below zero helps. I'm up below zero helps. Good morning, Nick and Scott. Good to see you. We also got our guy. I saw that the supporter of the show, unofficial sponsor, Patrick in the house over at Lion Coffee Company saying, usually like a joke about winter being cold in Hawaii, but those temps are no joke. R.I.P. Mr. Hillman. Yeah, it's stay safe, everyone. That's you don't want to mess with that. Make sure your kids are bundled up and make sure your pets are inside. God, that's a big one. Paul Swallow coming in here. Good morning from Spokane, Washington. Out there, I'm sure it's colder than heck out there on the east side of the state. Got Toyin talking about far east for me out there in the UK, saying good morning, afternoon, Broncos country. Wishing everyone a great Christmas. Don't you guys say happy Christmas out there from the beautifully gray United Kingdom? Yeah, we appreciate you coming in so much. We also got Money Moore coming in here saying Merry Christmas to all and to the Broncos country. A good fight. So this is a good little lead here. Good fight. And also hello to Albert. Good fight. Do you think the Broncos going to have a good fight this week on Sunday's Christmas Day game, the slime game for Nickelodeon, for anyone who's paying attention at home, as the number 3 overall pick Denver Broncos play the number 4 overall pick Rams, if I'm not mistaken there. The Bears have the number 2. Neither of those teams have their picks.
And neither of them have them. That's the crazy thing.
Yeah.
It's neither of them have those picks. I don't think that the Rams still have a little bit more to prove. Especially with Baker Mayfield at quarterback. He's out there fighting for his life. He's fighting for his NFL future. Last week against the Cardinals, that was an entire group of team who were ready for the offseason. They're the worst team in the NFL right now. The Rams, they're not a good football team, but they're not bad to the level that the Cardinals were. I would put anybody against the Cardinals, including the Texans. The Texans have been playing pretty tough here lately. Yeah. I would put the Texans against the Cardinals right now on a neutral field. So we're not going to read too much into what happened there. The Rams will play you hard. They will fight. They're not a good team, but they're not going to roll over and die the way the Cardinals have. So you'll be in for a fight. And Baker Mayfield is that gunslinger, maybe. He's got enough swagger about him that he can get hot and get some things done. This should be a good game. This should be an interesting game.
Yeah, and this is a team that is pretty decimated as well. And the Rams last year, I'm kind of concerned. Well, if I was the general manager, I'd be concerned about their pathway to winning the Super Bowl last year. Giving up all those picks, very star heavy, but a weak underbelly underneath. Last year, the Rams had unbelievable injury luck. This year, not so much. And when you have the injury luck, it goes one way, then it goes the other. Well, you're seeing what's happened here with the Rams this season. So, and they have, this is a team. There's no wonder that Sean McVay wants out. Maybe Aaron Donald retires, because looks like a team that's going to have to bounce off the ground pretty darn hard here. I don't think this is an easy fix given how many issues they have in key areas. And we'll talk about that here. Deanna coming back in here, $20, saying, my bad, Nick. No reason to be sorry or say you're bad. You want Hackett gone?
Kind of looks like a Seth.
Yeah.
He does. I got called Chris so much in high school that I answered to it. Shoot, us Gen X white kids only had like 5 or 6 names to choose from anyway, like John, Mike, Scott, Chris. There might have been one more, maybe a Robert in there. But it was either I got called Chris so much I answered to it. Nick kind of looks like a Seth.
I mostly went by Kendall. People called me Kendall because my mother was a teacher, so the Mrs. Kendall and that's Kendall's kid. And then my sister, unfortunately, who was 2 years younger than me, was known as Nick's sister a lot. So that's always a kind of a upsetting. If you are, no, I'm Melissa. No, you're Nick's sister. It also says, haven't had my coffee yet. Well, get on that. Number 1, that should be, ready to go. We got the brew going. Hackett is not a coach in any way. Offer a 2-year contract to a coach to prove himself. Anyone is better than Hackett. #MHH for life. I'm not saying you are. I'm not going to disagree with you one bit. I just think it does seem there's some murmurs out there that he could be back, which, if you'd have told me that at the bye week, you could have blown me over. You could have, tossed me around with a feather or something, whatever the hell the saying is.
It will take more than a 2-year contract. Your next
Oh yeah.
coach will have a 5-year, $10 million deal. It'll be $50 million. It's plenty of money.
Mhm.
And the NFL has it. I think the refs are leaking or putting together all the numbers. I think Diamond Rattler was pointing out, it's like that was putting that in the chat. The refs are saying that all this money is being blown into the coaches. What about us? The refs want their bigger slice of the pie too. Well, fine. You'll be a coach. Learn to run the 40 faster. No, I kid. The referees, being around high school referees and stuff at times, no one loves the game more than the officials. You'd have to. They get into it because they love the game, and it's a completely thankless job where they enjoy a good game, and that's their reward to be ignored. It's tough. So, but it'd take more than a 2-year deal for sure. And again, when we're saying anywhere is better than Hackett, that's the thing, is the bar's been set so low. It just feels like there's only one way to go but up. And I'm going to hit Lord of Liberty has had some good comments in here too. I want to hit after we get to Quentin Caldwell. Say good morning. Coming in here, Broncos Orange. Good morning, Broncos country. Good morning to you as well. And thank you for the support, my friend. And Merry Christmas. Happy holidays, however you may choose to celebrate or not celebrate. We thank you anyway. So thank you very much. And Lord of Liberty has come in, and he's basically saying those that want to get rid of Hackett still think that Russell Wilson has, can still be a good quarterback. And LOL here is completely off the map as far as he goes. He says, I'm done with Russell Wilson. This team has no help with Russell Wilson. The problem is you're tied to Russell Wilson financially. You can move on for a coach. So when we start talking about variables you can change, Russell's fixed. And I don't think he's as bad as he's shown. I think he can still be can be a good quarterback. I don't think he's completely done. But what I don't see, other than the positivity and a likable person, is what do I see out of Nathaniel Hackett that makes me think, okay, he's expendable. It just costs some money. Why do I want to keep him around? What's he doing that makes him valuable to this team? Whether you think Russell Wilson's valuable or not, if you get rid of him, it's a hammer blow to your kneecaps on the salary cap. So whether or not he's valuable, like we've said, if you don't want Russell Wilson, fine, but your best option for next year is to mothball him and his $22 million cap hit instead of taking a $90 million dead cap hit. I get that. I do. Russell Wilson's going to be a Bronco next year. Nathaniel Hackett, if you get rid of him, it's not a negative. It doesn't adversely affect your team, except for what you might be losing that he brings positively, which is, Nick, what?
Good energy, vibes.
Yeah.
He's on. He honestly, the vibes and the culture stuff, and people coming in and happy. That works pretty well if you are a good college coach and you can recruit your tail off and have people pull in the same direction. But you need to be a little bit better of a schemer and have some sort of calling card. You can't just be building a program off of personality like you can somewhat in college football. And Lord of Liberty says Russ still a good quarterback. We've talked about it on here. We will have all offseason talk about it too. I think the diminishing athletic traits, the version of quarterback that Russell Wilson wants to be versus how he actually wins is in direct conflict, and how this team is built. He wants to be empty set quarterback, a lot of options here. And he struggles with the quick game accuracy, the full field reads, the pre-snap checks. I mean, how often have we seen Russell Wilson get out there and make get the play in time and then make a good audible out there? I feel like when they do that, they're pushing right up against double zeros on the play clock. So it's been direct conflict. If I was building around Russell Wilson for next season, it was tied to him, it would be I would try to replicate what the Seahawks had with Marshawn Lynch. Get a really strong run game going, build up that offensive line more. You don't have to have a future or borderline Hall of Fame caliber running back to get that done if you invest in the offensive line some, and get some downfield weapons, some big guys that wide receiver who block their ass off. No finesse players. Build an identity out there and be a 30 to 35 pass attempts kind of guy, throwing the ball vertically and hammering the
That's
play
a lot.
30. I mean,
That's a
attempts.
lot.
I think the average is that's a balanced team, rather than
That's a lot. I'd have to do 35 times 17, but I bet that would make his most on average. I bet he has an average 30 over 30 in a season. Like 25
maybe
is
25. Then
yeah,
I need to see what
25
the
and
number.
35 is a lot, man.
Yeah, you don't want it to be you don't want it to be a high volume passing attack. So you're looking for about, I was figuring 20 completions a game. So but yeah, 20 25 probably what you're shooting for there. Desert Creature saying if the immaculate reception happened today, an umpire would step in and throw a flag. They wouldn't let them. What is it? The NFL refs keep screwing this up. They would not
Let
let
the
you.
play go on and then
Yeah,
review
they'd
it.
call it. Yeah, they'd like, oh, yeah, we called it dead there, so that means you can't advance the ball
Well, it
any
should have been a
further.
flag at the time. That was what made it the immaculate reception. Was at
Mhm.
the time the rules were offensive players could not touch it in succession.
Mm.
So, and the flag that Desert Creature is referring to was would be illegal hit on the safety for targeting a defenseless
Oh,
receiver. So that flag would have been dropped. They would have flagged that. He would have scored, and then replay would have called it back, saying that it was a catch since it was a scoring play, and you didn't have to challenge it. Replay would have called it back and said, no, the ball was touched by the receiver first. That can't happen. That's an illegal touching, offsetting. Replay the down, or it might have been over. I can't remember if that was the last play of the game or not. That may have been the end of the game.
I think it was the end of the game. We got Benjamin Flores. Howdy, men. Happy holidays to you both? Question mark. Oh, thank you. I also saw we had a Twitch one come in here asking. Oh God, where'd it go? Asking how Leavenworth was. I had a good time in Leavenworth. Thank you for having. There you go, Savage Boy. How's the trip, Nick? It was good. Little cabin in the mountains, hot tub with the snow falling. We got about a foot of snow. They closed the mountain passes the day that we were already out there, so Leavenworth wasn't super busy. It was a good time. Boozy coming in. Good morning, fellas. RIP to Ronnie Hillman. I think Hackett will be back next year on a 4-year, $60 million contract. Do you think the Broncos lead the remaining 12? If any group can, it's this Broncos ownership group. So I don't think I'm too worried about that. Did we already say hello to Quentin?
Oh, we did.
All right.
And but you should say thank you as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, Quentin. We appreciate you coming in with the $20, flashing orange. And Deanna again coming in big time, saying Wilson with the right coach and scheme will do so much better. Getting an offensive line and Wilson will be what we wanted. That's my hope anyway. Merry Christmas to all. Off to work. We'll have a great one. Stay warm, Deanna. Stay safe, and stay safe, everyone else out there
Be safe
battling
out
this.
there. Make sure you got good tires and all that kind of stuff, and don't take any chances.
Yeah, she's out there in Alaska. I'm sure she knows what's going on. But like,
Yeah.
always like I have friends that are from out here that are from like South Carolina, and it's like, okay, what do we need, Nick? Like, we'll pack a blanket, maybe a little bit of food, just in case. Flares always carry a kitty litter in this weather, just because that gives you a little bit of traction underneath the tires there if you need it. I've been stuck in the cold in Iowa before. My car just slid right off and went into a ditch when it was like -20.
No,
So.
I've told you this story before, Nick. When I was living out in California and watching, seeing the ice storms hit Georgia, and there's 4-wheel drive sliding sideways off the road,
Yep.
and there's people ice skating in cul-de-sacs. I'm like, I don't care where you are. Ice is wicked, and that's where
Yep.
what we get here in the South is the ice storms. And I was like, and besides that, I see what y'all do when it rains. So just shut up. You don't deal with any kind of weather at all. Deanna, again, be safe. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for the support. And we did see the super thanks. She came in on Tuesday night for the show that Chad and I did. We see all of that. Trust me. So appreciate you. Someone referred to me as the Eye of Sauron last night. So I said I see it all. I see it all. So thank you so much. And just to put a bow on this conversation with Lord of Liberty, he says you can't get arrested because of salary cap. But you need a viable alternative, and you can't be afraid of pension. Exactly. If you don't want Russ, that's fine. Then you got to put him out of sight, out of mind. Put him on a non-injury list or something. And he may say, I'll send you $50 million back and let's redo my contract and release me. I don't see that happening. But I don't think he's so far gone that he's not redeemable, where, you put him in the same situation last week against the Cardinals and cornerbacks 5, 6, 7, and 8 against that team and play within yourself. I think he shreds that team. Rippon was okay.
Yeah.
And then, Russell, I think, had a really good game.
Yeah. I think so too. Big thing here is, can Russell Wilson capitalize on the red zone area? Obviously, who knows what it looked like. Maybe he doesn't throw that interception there and the Broncos score more points, but this offense ran the football extremely efficiently, mostly under center, with Latavius Murray, who is a far better under center rushing attack kind of guy. He needs to get downhill. The start stop that you need for the shotgun run game, I don't think is as effective for Latavius Murray's style of rushing offense, and the play action is not as good as off of that as well. So I'm looking for that. And again, the red zone, Brett Rippon went 3 for 3. They had a couple good play designs, getting the football there in the end zone. Can Russell Wilson keep that up? This has been a very poor red zone offense this season, but they've been better the last 2 weeks. Can they keep the good vibes going in the red zone? Because I'm guessing this is going to be a pretty low scoring game. You need to walk away with 7 when you are in striking distance rather than 3.
Cleat of the T coming in green here. Appreciate it. He says, happy holidays. No longer a Broncos fan, but still a fan of Nick and Scott. Good health to you in both the new year. You'll come around. If you're not a fan during the hard times, then you weren't a fan. And if you were a fan, you'll be a fan again. It's okay if your enthusiasm wanes in December for a team that's 4-10. We'll give you a pass on that. We'll give you a pass on that. For sure. So, but we're glad you're still here, and glad you've been with us from the beginning. You've been here since, we started doing this show. So thank you very much.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you so much, Clea. We appreciate you with the snapper picture coming in there. I miss fishing. Maybe soon. Got to get that ice fishing out there. But let's get into this Rams game a bit. So this is obviously a team that has struggled almost as much as the Broncos this season. The Broncos actually bumping up here in DVOA from Football Outsiders. Where's Colin to give me a hard time about all the, the acronyms that I use here? But DVOA from Football Outsiders.
When that SOB starts talking DVOA, we pay attention ASAP.
Look out. Or GTFO, baby. But the Rams coming in here, they're the 28th rated team, according to Football Outsiders, with the 27th ranked offense and the 15th ranked defense. So they're not really good on either side of the ball. We also have here some more acronyms for you. EPA. The Rams offense has been pretty much, they're very similar to the Broncos this year in where they are weighted. The Broncos are rated the 29th offense in football this year per EPA, and the Rams are 30th. So obviously the Rams have had more issues with health of the quarterback position than the Broncos have had, but still a pretty poor team overall. They run the football a little bit better than the Broncos efficiency wise, but not by much. And then on defense, the Broncos blow the Rams out of the water. The Rams are a pretty good run defense team, which is going to be interesting. Let me see. When I pull up their rush EPA, they're 7th in the NFL, but their pass defense is 28th in the league. So this is an interesting game for the Broncos. Obviously, it's the Nickelodeon slime game. Everyone is so excited about that. We wait all year for the Nickelodeon slime game, right? Or whatever the heck they call it. Maybe your kids can enjoy some Broncos football. But it'll be an interesting game, and a team that, as Scott mentioned earlier, not laying over ready to die like this Cardinals team. This is going to be a game that has much more fight.
Yeah, like I said, but if nothing else, it's going to come from your quarterback. Baker Mayfield is fighting for a new contract, fighting for his NFL life, fighting for respect, all of those type of things. So he's going to go out there and rally the guys around him. They may look at him like, dude, you're crazy. Let's just not get hurt. But he's going to go out there and play hard. And Jackson says, honestly, Baker should win MVP. Yeah, that might be a little bit much. After this game, he could be an MVP of this game. But yeah, I expect a much bigger challenge from the Rams than you got from the Cardinals.
Yeah, it'll be a much tougher game. But the big one here for me, and this probably is going to make or break the game, Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald's been on the injury report. He's missed a couple games so far this season, played 11 of 14, and he's been dealing with some injuries. And if I was the Rams ownership, there is no way in hell that I am playing Aaron Donald a single snap the rest of the season. I know that, you're chasing career stats at this point, and every game missed is a game that could have been accumulating more stats to make the argument of being the greatest defensive player of all time. But you got to worry about the long-term health of that guy. And I think that if I was them, I would be putting him on bubble wrap. Honestly, this is such a terrible team, the Rams, that maybe their best way digging themselves out of this cap and draft pick hell would be trading Aaron Donald in the offseason to a team that is more ready to, make the play next season. Yeah, you got to know your windows. And this Rams team, they are just so deplete of talent in the trenches, the depth-wise that you need here, and made some terrible draft picks as well over the recent seasons. They got hot last year. They were very healthy. They won the Super Bowl. God bless them for that. They would say that they probably did what they were supposed to do, but this is a team I wouldn't be surprised if they were shopping some of those guys, and you need them healthy if that's the case. So Aaron Donald probably not going to play, but we will see.
Yeah, and that's a big difference. Bobby Wagner has been playing well. Speaking of linebackers from Colin and Ramsey, the guys that you need to, their big stars have been playing well. But we talked a little bit about it when you weren't here, Nick, on Tuesday. What's the big fall off? Part of it you mentioned injuries, and part of it was this team was built for the short term. They achieved their goal. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? And I said, if you're a team like the Falcons, the Lions, the Browns, then yeah. Having that high and hitting the Super Bowl and then falling into the dumpster for 2-3 years is worth it because you've been in the dumpster. I don't know what the other part feels like. So, but is it worth it for the Denver Broncos? Would you give back a Super Bowl win to have 6 consecutive winning seasons and a chance at more Super Bowls? Maybe not. You say, hell no, that was special, but they did. The Rams did. They went all in and they built for the short term. And here we are. And you know what, Nick? If you're really bad at drafting players, what do?
You trade them away.
Just trade them away.
Yeah. And to be fair, with the Rams, they've been pretty good at drafting day 3 players at specific roles. That's something that I think they've done better than most teams. We need a very specific skill set. We can find that guy in the 5th round, plug him into our system, and it works perfectly. He's not going to be as valued by other teams, but for what we are going to ask him to do, he'll be a great player. And they've been able to live off of that, more or less. But now you're starting to see it come home with the premium positions. You're not finding incredible starting plus players at edge or cornerback or offensive tackle very often, or wide receiver in the 5th round at a rate that is going to keep you sustainable, not having those picks. And we've seen it this season. Cooper Kupp goes down, Aaron Donald gets injured, Matt Stafford goes down, the offensive line is decimated as well. So this is a rough team right now. And the one that I want to get into here, and we got Jack coming in here first saying, do you guys think Russ will get his contract restructured? No, I don't think that thing will be touched. If it is restructured, the Broncos will eat more of that guaranteed money next season in order to make the dead cap less in the future. However, they can do that accounting wise by just not paying that money and then rolling it over this season. So
as Jackson asks this, usually when you hear a contract restructure, you start thinking, okay, this is how we're going to restructure his contract and lower his salary cap hit for this year so we have more available money for this year. That's the headline. Yeah. That's what you hear. In order to do that, you usually have to add years onto the back end of the contract. You have to give him a raise overall, or either one of those type of things. So right now, you don't want to add years onto Russell's contract and kick that dead cap number down the road. And 2, as Nick is saying, if you restructure it, it would probably be to hurt this team in the short term so that you could get out from under his big dead cap number in 2024. His restructure would actually be opposite of what we normally think about with a restructure, which is creating more cap room. Instead, it would be to eat available cap room in 2023. So we don't think this team is going to be very good. And we want to be able to rebuild and get out from under it. So you have to have some leverage in a restructure. Either you're talking about a Graham Glasgow type where he's got a $14 million cap hit and at $2 million if we lose him. Graham, do you want $4 million to re-sign, or we're going to waive you? The $4 million sounds pretty good. That's a restructure. That's not going to happen here. Russell's not going to take less money, and you don't want to add more years. So it would be, if he restructures, it's not to be beneficial in 2023.
Yeah. Don't think it'll happen, but we'll see what happens. Anything can happen in a single game. We got Bama X coming in with the $20. Thank you so much, Bama X. A lot pretty consistent contributor, and we appreciate you coming in with the support on the show, saying Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everyone in Broncos country. Great show and even better conversation as usual. Well, thank you so much. That means a lot. Y'all stay safe out there and enjoy the time with your loved ones. Hopefully capped off with the Broncos win. 100%. Thank you so much, Bama. Happy holidays to you and yours. I'm only slightly bitter about you guys stealing Caden Proctor away. And then But, is what it is. Bam, that won't be the first time Nick Saban flips a 5-star
Welcome to
recruit.
the club. Welcome to the
Uh,
club. The last thing you want to hear in December is, oh, Bama's sniffing around. Dang it.
yeah.
It's been like that for a long time. That isn't new. So, yeah, Bam X coming in yesterday with support on our other show and this show, just huge for us. Thank you very much again. One of the reasons sometimes you're like, you know how it goes. It's kind of like working out. I don't always want to get up and work out, but when I'm working out, I feel great. That's kind of how this is. So it's folks like y'all. You're the reason we're here, and we appreciate you for it.
Yeah, I'm freezing my took us off down here in my basement. Scott says that I sound like I'm in a air hanger when my heater's on, so I turn the heat off, and I'm probably sitting down in 55 degrees or something in my basement underneath a sleeping bag of all things. But we're killing it. Colin Wood saying, "How does everyone feel about Sunday Ticket going to YouTube?" I guess I don't really care that much, but I'm slightly concerned because my methods of watching the game might change a tad. I don't know what it means for how I watch the game, so we'll see. But I think it makes it more accessible overall to people. So I guess that's a good thing, but it's change. And I'm starting to get old where change scares me.
Means I need to upgrade my data plan from 1.2 terabytes that my kids burned through in about 3 weeks. And I'm like, all right, everybody off to unlimited for an extra $10. I've said this before, Colin, when we're talking about the explosion of the salary cap and the revenue, you wait until some of these digital companies decide to get serious about this. We've already seen with Amazon Prime. Apple could buy the NFL as a write-off. I mean, they're worth so much. If Apple decided to get an Apple TV, you're talking about YouTube and Google. I mean, now we're talking about trillions with a T, the type of companies. They could buy the NFL several times over when we're talking about these. Meanwhile, legacy TV companies are, ABC, Fox, and those. I don't know that they're on the same level. I mean, they're not hurting by any stretch of the imagination, and sports is still the holy grail, but you don't want to get in a bidding war with Google and Apple. I promise you that. Cut the cord. I mean, still for me, I haven't cut the cord because the best way for me to access all of these channels that I watch is still with a cable bundle. It's not like that for everybody. My parents did just cut the cord, because they're watching the Braves and Netflix.
Yeah. Before we get on out of here, we got to talk a little bit more Rams here. And this is a game I expect the Broncos to come in and do some stuff against the Rams. And why is that? I think the Broncos actually have a pretty solid advantage in the trenches if Aaron Donald doesn't play. This is a team on the Rams that just does not scare me on the defensive and the offensive sides of the football. Greg Gaines has been a fine nose tackle for them up front. And I know the Broncos have had some issues on the interior, but he's much more of just, a position holder on the line of scrimmage versus somebody who can penetrate. I liked Bobby Brown coming out of Texas A&M, but he's more of a rotational player. And then their edge rushers. I mean, they got Leonard Floyd, who's been fine out there for them. And they also got Michael Hoyt. But again, a college free agent. Again, there's no punch on this team without Aaron Donald in that front defensive line of scrimmage. Bobby Wagner is fine. He's still a solid player. They're paying him to be an elite player. I'm glad the Broncos didn't do that, considering where this team is and the play they are getting from Josie Jewell and Singleton, who are making less combined than Bobby Wagner's making this season. And then on the other side of the ball, this is a very bad Rams offensive line. They've gone through, I think, 3 left tackles now. Now they're on Ty Nishke at left tackle. He's been struggling out there.
There's a linebacker name.
Yeah, right. He's been around the league for a bit. I remember him playing for the Washington football team, who was the other name at the time, but he's been okay player, but he's not a starting caliber player. The other guys that I know they're dealing with injuries at the center position. I think Brian Allen is dealing with injury out there. Their best player on that offensive line is Rob Havenstein from Wisconsin. He's a good player, much better run blocker than a pass protector. But overall, this is just a terrible team in the trenches without Aaron Donald. I think this is a game the Broncos should be able to somewhat impose their will, as crazy as it sounds, impose their wills and be bigger, stronger at the point of attack and win the battle of attrition at the line of scrimmage.
Well, if we're looking at units, kind of like last week, except like I said, the Rams will be a better team. Not a good team, but a better team than the Cardinals. If we're looking at units, still the Broncos hold the trump card on this one. The Broncos defense is better than anything the Rams can do. That will keep you in the game. And then run the ball. Latavius Murray looked refreshed He looked great out there. So someone to watch. And then a question here, Josie Lee, I don't remember who asked it too. I do remember the question though. So someone asked earlier if you thought Russ underestimated the ease of transition to a new system, new team, new town, new everything. Don't know if y'all addressed that. No, we hadn't. Probably. I think everybody did. Otherwise, why do you have all freshman rookie coaches, all of that type of thing in order to come in? And then you're still talking about the Super Bowl or bust. You hedge a little bit. Yeah, we've got new coaches, new stuff. It might take some time. It might take, set expectations a little bit. Always under promise, over deliver. I think that was part of the problem.
Yeah. God, we'll see how it plays out. It's it's going to be an interesting offseason, no doubt. And I'm still excited for these last 3 games. Going into Arrowhead, that one scares me. But if the Broncos come out with a win, get their first back-to-back wins since weeks 2 and 3 this season, will be a lot of fun. And I think they got a chance to win this one. I'm not sure what the Vegas has the line at right now. I've been with spotty service here recently, but we'll get back into it here. And we got Todd coming in saying, hi, Nick and Scott and Broncos family. Good to see you. Todd, always appreciate you coming in and joining us. We also got Tim B coming in saying, Steve Sewell, anyone? RIP Ronnie Hillman. Yeah, very big bummer here to talk again about Ronnie Hillman as we start to wrap up the show. Passed away last night suddenly, and I guess not suddenly to him, but news came out that he was heading to hospice with liver cancer. So
all right, I looked up mybookie.ag. What do you think the line is?
I'm going to go with -1 Denver.
It was 2.5. Yeah, they're favored by 2.5. That surprised me a little bit. But we've seen this before where the Broncos have been getting, it seems like they've been getting 3 points more than they deserve on pretty much every game.
Yeah.
Like the line has been more favorable towards the Broncos than we probably would have expected.
I think that has a lot to do with the craziness of the Broncos 1-score games so far this season. I think, what is it? If you flipped every single 1-score game, which historically is pretty much a 50-50 proposition, the Broncos would have only like 4 losses on the season or something like that, which is pretty crazy. And that's the Vikings this year are like undefeated in 1-score games. Talk about, I mean, it's possible that there's a different reality out there where those two teams' results flip, and the Broncos are right now contending in the AFC, even with the injuries, because that's how
what
close.
You're seeing with the Atlanta Falcons this year, who went 7-2 in 1-score games this year, and it's definitely gone the other direction, and now they're 5-9.
Yep. It's very fickle. Injuries in 1-score game, and Broncos are getting whammied on both of them in a year they don't have their first round pick.
So
Sarah.
You're hoping with some, like I said, I've said this before, on the bright side of things, this Broncos team isn't as far away as the record feels like it is. Some incremental improvements across the offensive line, which shouldn't be that hard. That's a big one for me. Some incremental improvements along the health. You're hoping that can happen. And all of a sudden, those 1-score games are flipping next year. And instead of 4-10, you're looking at 10-4. That would be this team isn't as far away as their record makes it seem like it is. That's I truly believe that.
Yeah, 100%. We got Robert coming in here. Robert, to see you. Happy holidays to you. Thanks for coming in here. Look like you're on a boat or something. Maybe you're holding a fish, but we appreciate you. Robert Merica saying, with so many players in the injured reserve this year, do you see the Broncos replacing their training staff? I've seen a lot of people push back about Lauren Landau criticism, and I'm going to have the same talking point that I've had every single time here. I am not an expert in physiology or kinesiology or whatever the heck's going on there with the Broncos staff. I don't pretend to be. If I was the Broncos ownership, I would be spending a lot of money to make sure that I have the best possible, because you are limited within the structures of the salary cap, but you can have the best investment and cutting edge in scouting and analytics and training and, health and everything. I'm not saying replace them. They've obviously had some pretty crazy injury luck this season, but it's worth looking into and seeing what can we do differently. What can we invest in to have better results than we've had recently?
That's not a fish. That is a pirate deterrent that Robert is holding out there. So
okay.
He says it's a Navy picture. Yes, yes, it is. That's a pirate deterrent he's standing on deck with right there. God bless you for it.
I see it.
The injuries have gotten so bad that my dog blew his ACL, and he's his second one, and he got dropped off for ACL surgery this morning at 7 a.m. That's how bad the injuries have gotten. here in Broncos country. I'm gonna have to change the banner just to do that. So, and no, I'm not joking, actually.
No.
The thing is you listen to the chatter, and it comes up almost every week now in press conferences where there's something. We evaluate everything. We've had a lot of those. He's got a hamstring. We've had a lot of those this year. You hear those little things right now, those little hints that there will be some changes coming in the offseason. It might not be a complete overhaul, but something is changing in the offseason. I almost guarantee that.
Yep. We'll have to figure it out. But Scott, before we wrap it on up here, we need the final score prediction. I'll go first here. I think this is going to be a Broncos win. I think that the Broncos, on paper, should win this game in the trenches. I know the Rams have done a good job overall stopping the run this season, but without Aaron Donald is a totally different proposition than with Aaron Donald. As good as Aaron Donald is as a pass rusher, the attention he gets and disruption in the run game is equally impactful. And I don't think he's going to play. Why would you play him? This is a lost season. Protect that guy.
He didn't play last week, I don't think, when I was watching.
He didn't.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
No, he did not play.
I didn't think he played last week. So you're going, what kind of score are you looking at?
I think the Broncos are going to win this one 20-17. I think it's going to be a game with limited possessions. Both these teams are going to want to run the football to protect their quarterbacks, and it's going to be, taking the air out of the ball, so to speak. And I think the Broncos are going to be okay efficiency-wise. Some people are like, oh, they didn't score 24 points again. Well, their points per possession, I think, is actually going to be okay in this one. It's just going to be low scoring throughout the whole game, maybe a little bit of field position. But in the end, I think the Broncos have such a advantage in the trenches. I mean, Randy Gregory, Baron Browning, whoever goes against the left tackle is going to have a good game. They're going to miss Draymond Jones, but I think DJ Jones should eat up in the middle there. And they don't have any weapons. Cooper Kupp's out. Their best weapons are Tutu Atwell and Van Jefferson and Tyler Higbee. I mean, just nothing on this team, on this Rams team, scares me. They're probably saying the same things about the Broncos, but I mean, Jerry Jeudy and I think the run game for the Broncos are a much bigger advantage. So I'm going to go Broncos winning this one 20-17 and mainly winning it with the strength they have over the Rams in the trenches.
I have trouble picking the Broncos on the road in most games. I did pick them against the Cardinals. Didn't matter to me who the quarterback was. I've been dragging the Cardinals for a week now. I'm going to go with the Rams on this one. It's my Christmas present to you, Broncos country. Like I said, I think they still have something to fight for. I think Baker Mayfield will rally the troops a lot better than Colt McCoy was able to, or Trace McSorley. And he's got a lot more to play for. Let's be honest. He's got a chance to go for a new contract. So still low scoring to me. I would go 17-13 Rams. The over-under on this one is 36.5, according to mybookie.ag.
I had it at 37, right there.
I would go, I would probably say, I'd still probably go with the under on this one, and I would take the Rams.
Okay, well, we're in disagreement on this one. I think with Russell Wilson in the back, and it should be Russell Wilson in the back. He's been cleared. I'd be shocked if he doesn't play this week. It sounds like he was pretty irritated he didn't play last week, and he's in a week further from that. I wish, honestly, the NFL should just, like, if you have a concussion, a certified concussion, you are out the next week no matter what, just to take the guesswork and everything out of that, or not guesswork, but just making it safer, not rushing anybody back. Oh, if you had a concussion, you're out. The big thing then would be teams would be lying about whether guys had concussions or not, but got to protect those players long term and just take some of the guesswork out of it.
He was said, Hackett was asked, it was either immediately after the game or that Monday. What do you think? What do you think? He goes, no, Russell Wilson will play. He said Russ will play next week. It'll be Russ. So it's Russell Wilson this week. Yep. And John Stillwell coming in, closing us out here, coming in Broncos orange, even though he's a Seahawk up there. He's a Seattle fan pulling for the Broncos. At some point, regression to the mean will kick in. Well, appreciate that, John. Thanks for coming in and supporting the show, and being cool about it. It's tough. I know you would feel that the Broncos losing is good for you, but there's some point where you've been rooting. I say all the time, rooting for the names on the back of the jerseys as much as the ones on the front. And if you were a Russell Wilson fan in Seattle for a long time, you're not enjoying watching this. You're not enjoying seeing him struggle and getting dragged to this type of extent. And you would want to see him come back and play better, even if it would cost you the number 3 to the number 5 overall pick or whatnot. So thank you, John. I get it. I root for players more than teams these days myself.
Yeah. Big of you, John. I don't know if I would be doing the same if I was in your shoes, because I think there's a big difference in talent from the top 3 picks in this class to even pick 4. I think there are 2 crown jewels in Will Anderson and Jalen Carter. And after that, there is a lot more guesswork and uncertainty. And if you are picking 3, then you are a trade down candidate. Honestly, if you're picking 4, I think you're a trade down candidate as well. So if the Broncos win this game, they probably drop down to about 4, 5, 6. So it'll be interesting to see how it impacts the trades. And then I guess I'd rather have the Rams lose also, not because only the Broncos sending that pick to Seattle, but I'd be interested to see what happens with Detroit with the top pick. NFC out there, they're going to do the quarterback stuff. Detroit's a very fun up and coming team, and they've been bad for so long. They're kind of like how people were viewing the Cleveland Browns before they got Deshaun Watson. They've been bad so long, throw them a bone. Once they traded for Deshaun Watson, I was like, maybe not, but we'll pulling for Detroit, which means we're pulling against the Rams.
If this is anything past the top 3, I can see the Seahawks trading the Denver Broncos former pick down, Ernie. So this is about the Broncos former pick. As we loosely connect it to the Denver Broncos, I can see them trading out for the reason you said. If they're sitting 2 or 3, they'll have either Jalen Carter or Will Anderson. And well, maybe not at 3, because 1 and 2 could be Jalen Carter and Will Anderson. They've got a shot at Jalen Carter, Will Anderson. I don't think they'll trade down.
Yep. I don't think so either. Yep. And they also have the 15th pick, I think, right now. So losing some games with the two good picks for the Seahawks. So we appreciate you guys. We're going to wrap on up. Happy holidays to all you. Again, thanks to Scott for holding down the fort while I was gone, getting a much needed break out there in the mountains. Didn't have to bring my recording equipment left with the spotty internet. So that's great. Make sure you guys are following Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. I am at Nick Kendell MHH. Also, make sure you're following us at BFB_pod, as well as at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, join us on our Facebook group at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle, as well as facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And as the ticker says underneath, if you are joining us on YouTube today, or you have a YouTube account, make sure you head on over there. YouTube's also going to be the home to NFL Sunday Ticket going forward. So we know you're going to be over there. And while you're over there, make sure you subscribe, like, and share to the Mile High Huddle channel. It's not just Broncos for Breakfast. It's Building the Broncos. It's Huddle Up Podcast. It's Mile High Legends. It's Mile High Insiders. It's Dove Valley Deep Divers. Some people are like, oh, we got shows 7 days a week. We got damn near 10 shows a week out here on this channel.
Birdie told me a Saturday show's coming back.
We're busy, man.
7 plus 3 or 4. 7 plus
4.
4. So it'll be 11 shows a week.
And a lot of those shows that are every day are only like half an hour long. We're at an hour and 7. So, God, man, we have a lot of hot air in here. I don't have my heat on.
We spent half of it talking about the weather and movies, but so be it.
Yeah. What can you do? It's the weather's relevant right now. And speaking of the weather, everyone out there dealing with it right now, please stay safe. Bring your pets inside. Make sure if you're going to get freezing rain to take your windshield wipers and put them up, because you don't want those sticking to your windshield, and that can cause a lot of damage there. And then you can be really screwed pushing some around that ice and the dirt there. So be safe. Everyone have a good one. Scott, happy holidays to you. Hopefully your dog is doing well. Back soon, I'll be hearing status report, I'm sure, tonight.
He gets to come home tonight. So I'm glad, because the weather could be pretty dicey tomorrow that they wanted. Mm-hmm. Normally they keep him overnight, but they're worried about people being able to get into the office tomorrow. So like, come get your dog. I'm like, no problem.
Yeah, it's definitely a concerning time. Everyone stay safe out there. Happy holidays with you and yours, whatever you celebrate and you don't celebrate, have a great weekend. Enjoy the vacation, I guess, if you have that. And appreciate everyone out there working, protecting the country, and working those jobs that they cannot get the massive time off that some of us get as well, because you guys are keeping country and society functioning there. So we appreciate you. Everyone have a good one. Let's see if the Broncos can pull out a W this week. Continue to choose compassion and kindness. Go Broncos.